Hello, hockey fans. We're here for the new episode of Five for Talking, the off-season edition, first episode. I'm here with Caps, the captain of the show, the Muscles and the Sauce shirt coming soon. And okay, this is the NHL edition. We're gonna do a Leafs edition. We're gonna post them back to back here, and then we're probably gonna have a couple more weeks off before we get to the next episode. But let's kick it off here with the drafts because we haven't talked about much. So I didn't see a lot of controversy surrounding this, but to me, even the people I went to go watch it with, we went to get wings and watch the draft. Everyone in Wild Wings was freaking out about Shane Wright dropping to fourth. And doesn't it seem so convenient that not only did he get the unanimous first overall pick, dropped 3 spots and went to the brand new expansion Seattle Kraken that are struggling?
Yeah, it is convenient. The rumor that's going around, this is a rumor, that his interviews did not go very well with the first 3 teams. And what they're saying is that he had a bit of an attitude, kind of like entitlements, that he already knew that he was going to go first. So maybe that's what did it for him. Maybe that's the reason why 3 teams passed up on him, and that's why he went fourth to Seattle. But you're right; it is a bit of a conspiracy.
I think so, and it's weird that it didn't get talked about that much because like I could see Slakovsky, I believe that's his name, the first overall guy that went to Montreal. He was really good, so I can see that maybe even Nemec at second, but then still on the third spot, Arizona was willing to take Cooley over Wright, and that to me was just like okay. So even like a team that has nobody is willing to pass up on the unanimous first overall pick. And this is my thing. If he continued to drop down the board, okay, but he went to Seattle, which is like they're trying to like build a market there. And obviously it's conspiracy theory like related, but like it seems fishy to the point where I could literally see the NHL being like, everyone just pass on him, let him go to Seattle. We'll give you something for it.
You said everything.
Yeah, I mean, I said everything that Caps definitely didn't want to say, but I mean, otherwise, the draft turned out pretty good. I think there was a lot of good trades, which we'll get to the trades coming up. Shane Wright going to Seattle is huge for them. I really like the 2 Slovakians going first and second. That's really cool. A lot of good players coming out of Slovakia over the last couple of years and going forward. So that's nice to see. If the Leafs had a pick, that would have been nice.
You're pretty much saying everything about the draft. That the only thing I know is about the controversy about Shane Wright. I mean, I didn't really look into it too much, but I don't know too much about the backgrounds about some of the guys that went first, second, and third. But you're absolutely right about the Leafs. I mean, the Leafs had to do what they had to do to rid themselves of some contracts to create space. But it is what it is, and it turned out to be another Marleau situation. So, yeah.
As for the moment, the Marleau situation is a lot nicer looking on paper. I mean, this is than that. But we're going to get to that in that episode. Let's move forward here. So we're going to be talking about the trades now that happened. We're going to start a little bit back just to go over a few things here and give our opinion. Anything Leafs related will be talked about in the Leafs episode that's going to be posted after this. So if you're looking for that, that's where it is. So we'll start here on June 10th. According to Caps, I have to start there. No. So Ben Bishop got traded with a 7th round pick to Buffalo Sabres for future considerations to Dallas. So that's a salary dump. That's a really good salary dump. I believe we might even have talked about this. I don't really have much about that. I think that's really big.
No, go fly through them, man.
All right. Montreal, Vegas busted off the trade Dadonov for Shea Weber. And Montreal is trying to dump Cap, but at the same time, I think it works because Shea Weber also may never be 100% ever again for the rest of his career. But it adds a cool dynamic on the back end for the Golden Knights.
He decides to come back.
And I mean, if Dadonov plays, it's a good solid winger.
No, but I think they just took on the contract so they can add some salary cap space because I believe the Vegas Golden Knights are still over the cap. No,
They
or
probably are.
Are they compliant now because they got rid of Pacioretty?
That might be true. You know what? Cap is not my thing. We know this already.
Yeah,
you're the cap guy. Well, that's your name.
Well, while you're going through that, I'll look it up.
Okay. Well, Minnesota Wild made a trade with Dallas, the LA Kings. Kevin Fiala goes to the Kings, and the Wild got Faber and a first-round pick. I think the Wild needed to dump salary. They got a pick in return. They're building a little bit for the future. They're kind of doing little rebuild pieces without fully rebuilding at this point. And Fiala is a huge pickup for the Kings. He fits in perfectly with the dynamic of that team. We talked about this already, and you didn't like my opinion on it, but I think the Kings are going to be a huge underdog team that are going to upset a lot of people as the season progresses. They're really aggressively built. Go ahead.
Yeah, the Vegas Golden Knights are $1 million over the cap.
They'll get compliant.
Yeah, they got 2 months anyway. But yes, you're absolutely right. Everyone's, the Kings, and I think Drew Doughty comes back next year. So they're already better anyway. But yeah, I believe Dallas takes a step forward because of their goalie. But I still think there's a couple more teams that are better than LA. But Minnesota to me is still one of the top four teams in the West. But yeah, man, let's see what happens with LA.
I'm going to agree with that. I think Minnesota is definitely at the top of the West. I don't look as Minnesota as like an upsetting team, I think the Kings are going to be the upsetters. So anyways, moving forward, you got Philip Myers and Grant Mismash. Great name. Go to the Tampa Bay Lightning. Ryan Mcdonough goes to the Predators. This is a cap dump. Mcdonough was not happy about this. I think this honestly leaves a huge gap in their defense in Tampa Bay. We'll get to that as we go. Do you have anything you want to say on that?
Yeah, I agree with you. It's definitely a salary cap dump. I think some of the things that Tampa has done in the past have caught up to them with circumventing the cap. Let's face facts. But I still think Tampa's still got a lot of depth on that team. But,
I don't think that – I know we're not really talking about this, but I'm not here to say that, like, Tampa Bay is going to be not a playoff team. I just don't – I no longer think they're going to be a top 3 team in the Atlantic.
In the East.
Sorry, in the East. My bad. In the East.
Because to me, with all the transactions that have happened, I believe the East is a little more evened out.
Yeah, so it's also a lot better.
Yeah, and some of the teams that were really bad last year, I believe they actually challenge for a playoff spot coming up next year. So yes, you're absolutely right. I think Tampa does take a bit of a step back, but to me, they're still a really
they're not a bad team. They're no longer immediate contenders in my book. They're obviously a team that could win, right?
Well, they got a lot of competitors in that Eastern Conference that's going to challenge them.
So moving on, so we're getting to the draft day trades here. Some of the big ones, you got Alexander Georgiev got traded to Colorado. Obviously, they weren't trying to re-sign Kemper, and I'm assuming that Georgiev's going to end up being the backup goalie, but he's still really young, and I think there's a lot of potential there. They gave up 3 draft picks to get him, 2/3 and a 5th. I don't think there's much to say about that. That's a pretty decent trade. They had to do it.
Yeah.
Coming up next is a really big trade. I think this is super important to the future of the Ottawa Senators here.
And Chicago.
Yeah. So Chicago takes 3 draft picks, a first, a second, and a third. And Ottawa Senators get Alex DeBrincat, who was one of the best players on Chicago. He has a huge ceiling. He could be a superstar. So excellent pickup.
Yeah, Chicago's going to go through a rebuild. They got to do what they got to do to prepare themselves. in the last maybe few months, you've been hearing a lot of talks about Kane and Taves. So they're preparing, and Ottawa, I mean, it's a huge step forward with who they've acquired from Chicago. So, yeah.
Just to touch on that too, Chicago got a lot of draft picks in all these trades. My question is, and try to we're not going to take this too long, but they're trying to rebuild clearly. But what they've done is they've traded away all of their youth core, where all of their up and coming talent has been moved now. But they held on to Taves and Kane, which just in my head doesn't make sense. Why wouldn't you move those two and keep your young guys?
Because in the salary cap era, it's going to be hard for them to move that kind of money, or anybody else.
I think Kane would take that contract on.
Yeah, it's possible. Maybe it's a possibility that Chicago doesn't want to retain any salary. I don't know. It's just giving out ideas as to why maybe they don't want to do it. I'm hearing rumblings that, and they're just rumors that some of the Canadian teams are interested in Kane. But that would require Chicago to retain salary. And I don't know if they really want to do that.
All right. Well, continuing on here, Montreal pulls off two good. Well, no, I wouldn't say one of them was good. The Islanders won that trade. They got Alexander Romanov in a 4th-round pick. Romanov kind of settled down last year, but he's a good up-and-coming player. Montreal gets their 1st-round pick. Then Montreal traded that 1st-round pick and a 2nd-round pick for Kirby Dach. So, and I think that's a huge pickup for Montreal. I really see Montreal and between the draft and the trades they made and the signings, Montreal and Ottawa really improved. Clearly we're going to touch base on that a little bit more. Then we got the salary dump, like one of the best salary dump trades I've seen in a long time. Peter Mrazek and a 1st-round pick that the Leafs didn't really need for a 2nd-round pick. And to me, that's a win-win. You still got to draft somebody and you got to dump the salary.
It's become the norm. The Leafs are going to have to do what they have to do to be capital compliant every year. The Peter Mrazek experiment failed. They tried, but some things work out, some things don't. This case didn't work out. Fortunately, kind of like with Marleau, they had to give away a 1st-round pick so that Chicago would take Mrazek. But at least they were able to get rid of that contract, that salary dump, or that that contract, excuse me. And they don't have to deal with that $3.8 million a year for a backup goalie. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Well, the Leafs showed you how to do it right. And then immediately after that, Edmonton showed you how to do it wrong. Edmonton traded a 1st and Zach Kassian for a 2nd, a 3rd, and a 1st.
I don't get it.
Yeah, it's to be honest with you, it was a really bad trade. I'm not 100% even sure
what is was this a salary dump? Like I don't understand what they were trying to do. I mean, I don't want to knock them or anything. They did some good things, but this one
it was a salary dump, but it was basically like, here, take everything.
Okay. I mean, he makes $3.2 million a year. All right. Okay. Well, I'll just leave it at that. Whatever.
Anyways, moving forward, Vanacek got traded to the New Jersey Devils for a couple draft picks to Washington. They ended up signing Vanacek on New Jersey, so good for them. D'Angelo got traded to the Flyers for a 2nd-round pick, a 3rd-round pick, and a 4th-round pick. And this might not seem that huge, but in the long run, this trade ended up being massive because of what Carolina was able to do after that.
Okay.
We're moving on.
Yeah.
Skipping the Leafs here. Huge trade again. Ottawa gets Cam Talbot after trading their goalie to the Leafs, which we'll talk about in the Leafs episode, for Philip Gustafson, who was a goalie barely getting anything in Ottawa. And I think this is you basically replaced Matt Murray with an equal caliber goalie that has proved that he's still got it. So I don't think you lose in this trade. I think that's a great trade.
Yeah, it's going to be a risk. It is a bit of a risk. I mean, you're definitely going from the Wild to the Senators.
But the Senators got better.
The Senators got better, but we just have to see if they play like a team next year.
They still need to pull it. They need to pull a defenseman.
Yeah. I'll just leave it at that.
Okay.
Next, we got a lot to go through.
You got a really even trade here. Pavel Zacha for Eric Holoff, Boston and New Jersey trade. I think that's a perfectly even trade. So that is what it is. Worth mentioning, though. Here's the trade where it got good. Carolina gets Brent Burns and Pedersen from San Jose, who received Lawrence Makinami. I don't even know who that is, and a conditional third-round pick. And they retain 33% of Burns' salary. Excellent trade.
Yeah, this
Absolutely
is the one.
Excellent.
I think this is the one that caused you to message us and say Carolina's got
not yet.
Chance. Was it this one? No,
it was not yet. It was right after this trade. They signed Kasha. Immediately after this trade, they signed Kasha, and then they traded future considerations for Max Pacioretty and Dylan Gofflin.
I don't know how Carolina is able to take on that contract.
You want to check their salary? I never even thought about looking at it.
I'm going to look at it right now while you talk about this trade.
I think this trade was like the icing on the cake. So like you got Brent Burns, Max Pacioretty, Coughlin. You dumped salary. Like, how did they manage to do that as well? Like that's the part that really is like crazy to me. And then you brought in a bunch of draft picks. You signed Kasha. To me, this is just like, to me, they're number one. To me, this team right now, if you ask me on paper, who's the best team, who's going to win the East? Carolina.
I'm surprised. They still got $4 million of cash.
And guess what? They're definitely going to do something with that money.
Well, they got 2 RFAs to sign.
All right.
And Jake Gardner is on long-term reserved.
Well, we're coming up here on the end of this, so we'll go through these ones quickly. Connor Brown goes to the Capitals, which I think is a huge pickup for the Capitals. The Capitals, we were talking about it, how they lost both goalies, what's going to happen, and then they slowly just kept getting pieces, and they don't look bad anymore. They look like a playoff team already. From a team that in one day we were like, oh, they're done. So they did that for a draft pick, and then Pittsburgh really shored up their D-line here, in my opinion. John Marino, who people argued with me online was the next big thing in Pittsburgh, has now been traded for Ty Smith, who's a good prospect defenseman, and a third-round pick. And then they traded Montreal Mike Matheson and a fourth-round pick for Petrie and Poling, which is a huge move. Pittsburgh, you know me, I'm not that big on believing in Pittsburgh anymore, but these defensive moves are what they needed to shake up on defense. Now they just got to figure out their goalie situation. And the fact that Letang and Malkin both signed for cheap, I mean, to me, that's a huge thing. Huge.
And you sent out a message saying Pittsburgh's got a really good chance of winning it all next year. So
I think they do. I think Crosby and Malkin know it's their last chance. And the team that they have to work with is not bad. It's pretty good.
The only thing is that they're going to have to rely on 4 35-year-olds to actually carry this team to.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It's going to be tough, but
well, hopefully
they'll be okay.
Hopefully you get even more breakout from Gensel, right? Hopefully he really stands on his own this year because he's been playing good, but the issue I have is it's very dependent on Sidney Crosby. Okay, so we'll talk about some free agency signings. We'll just try to go over like the really big ones. Sticking with Ottawa, Claude Giroux. I think.
Well, this was adding to the thing that you were saying before that Ottawa is just getting better and better. I think this is a good, kind of like the Jason Spezza type thing to the Leafs. You know, Claude Giroux is going to be the same thing to the Ottawa. He's going to like kind of rub off that sort of experience on everybody else. So I think this is a good signing and a step in the right direction for Ottawa. So, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So The Johnny Gaudreau signing. We'll
I
get
don't
in.
get it.
We'll get more in depth about your. I know you want to talk about something, but we'll wait till we talk about the other thing. But
Sure.
just in general, it's weird because New Jersey offered him a lot more money,
And that's his hometown.
and he said no to go to Columbus. Apparently, he was going to sign with New Jersey, and then once Columbus called, he immediately accepted the contract and went to Columbus.
Yeah, so I was just telling a buddy of mine who's a huge Calgary Flames fan is that not only do you piss off the Calgary Flames fans, but you pissed off your hometown fans as well, be it for rejecting their deal.
Yeah,
their
had it not, had it been 10 years ago, none of that information would have been known. But now in the world we live in, everyone knows that he turned down New Jersey's contract for more money. And to be honest with you, unless Columbus signs Laine, who's an RFA, I don't think they're that good. I think if you have Laine there as well, there's a better shot.
Yeah, but didn't they just pick up they picked up somebody else who they thought that they overpaid for him.
Are you talking about in this offseason?
This offseason.
Eric Gubernson. Yeah. Sorry, who also came from Calgary. Surprise, surprise. They did overpay for him a bit, but he's a good defenseman. I don't know if he's worth that much money.
Mm-hmm.
Either way, then Carolina lost Vincent Trocheck, which that was a little bit.
They'll be fine.
Yeah, they'll be fine. Yeah. Who went to New York, and New York filled that hole because they just lost Andrew Kopp, who went to Detroit. Detroit's throwing money around.
Yeah, Detroit's. I think people are saying Detroit's gonna be fine, gonna be good next year. I don't think they're ready yet.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're maybe a couple of years away before you can start seeing some real gains. But I think you're going to see a lot of transitions, a lot of transitional players going through Detroit until they have a good fit. So
you know what? That's what.
Yeah.
I agree. I think that was so well said. I didn't even think about that. That's how that team is going to play it. The way that Yzerman is going to do that is he's just going to keep bringing in pieces like a revolving door until everything fits into place.
Yep.
So I talked a lot about in between us off the camera about how I thought Colorado and Tampa Bay and a few other teams really lost a lot this year and didn't really get much to replace it. So I think Colorado lost Burakovsky, who went to Seattle. They paid a lot for him, but he is a good player. Then they lost Kemper, who went to Washington. Mm-hmm. And that was like, Kubo went to the Leafs. It's just like there's a lot of things up in the air, and we know Kadri's not coming back because they're not paying that money. Maybe they'll work something out, but I doubt that.
Maybe they'll work something out, but yeah, that'll be a huge loss for Colorado. However, the core players are still there.
Yes.
And let's be honest, the West is not that strong.
No.
So Colorado
agreed
can still, do some damage.
Fully agreed. And I think a big factor on it is that so where Tampa Bay's at now is where Colorado's at now is where Tampa Bay was 2 years ago. So they still have the solid core, and they're just like picking the little pieces to the side, where Tampa Bay has reached a point now where they don't have any pieces on the side. They only have the core and nothing else. Kind of like Chicago. It happened to Chicago.
But the difference between Tampa and Colorado is Vasilevsky.
Yes, agreed. Big time. And then for Tampa Bay, since we're already talking about Tampa Bay, and I have it right here, Palat signed to New Jersey, and that's a huge loss.
Yeah.
That's that was their biggest non-star player piece that they had. Yeah. So to me, that's a little bit disconcerting if you're a Tampa Bay fan. But hey, it is what it is at this point. Ryan Strome went to the Anaheim Ducks. That's a weird. Both Strome brothers moved. Detroit way overpaid for Ben Sherratt. Dallas got Marchment, and I think that was overpaid. The trend seems to be just like way overpaying people, if I'm being honest.
Which is unusual for the NHL because it's going to catch up to them because of the cap.
Definitely.
Unless they, the cap goes up like $5 million in the next couple of years.
Well, the Rangers filled their backup goalie spot with Halak, which was huge in my opinion.
Yeah, they'll be okay.
Max Domi went to Chicago. Athanasio went to Chicago. And let's just talk about the elephant in the room before we get off this topic and talk about who's remaining. Jack Campbell signs in Edmonton.
Good luck to him. I hope he succeeds. This was probably his last chance to making some serious money. So I don't really hate on him that much for asking for more money because he's probably not going to get that opportunity.
And realistically, that's not that much because remember, I was telling you there was a lot of rumors of him getting $7 million and he only got $5 million.
Yeah, but it's a huge difference between 1.5 and $5 million.
Oh, definitely.
So, and he's what? He's closing on, I think he's 30, no?
I think he's 31.
Yeah. So this is probably his last real chance to making some real dough. And
30.
Good on him, man. Like I hope he succeeds, and let's see what happens. But and they got Evander Kane too. So Edmonton looks really, really sharp, really, really strong going into the next season.
If they stay healthy, I already said this. I'm willing to bet a lot on it that Edmonton is going to finish either in the top or in the top 3 of the West.
Well, you could count on the fact that McDavid and Draisaitl have tasted, exactly what they're capable of last year. They're going to be even more motivated to come in this year.
Oh yeah, and the team is better. They're better. They have a way better goalie. They have the best goalie they've had in 10 years.
However, they did take a bit of a hit because they lost Duncan Keith. So that playoff experience is no longer there.
Agreed, but he didn't really play that well last year. But I think the experience matters.
Yeah, but you could tell the difference. Like as soon as, when it's someone other than Keith, you can really see the difference. Like Barry wasn't playing that well.
In fairness to Edmonton, they had no Clefbaum for almost the whole season, and he's going to slot in after this, which is huge. And
Darnell Nurse was playing hurt as well.
Yes.
So they really have to rely on Keith. We'll see what happens.
Okay, so let's just quickly end this episode with what we have remaining here. So for me, I would say if you're going the 5 free agents that are on the market, PK Subban, Phil Kessel, Patrice Bergeron, that's a really big one for me.
Wow.
Paul Stastny and Nazem Kadri, and then John Klingberg. We'll put out 6.
Besides Klingberg, I don't see any of those other players getting some top dollar.
No,
I think they're going to be signing for
Kadri will
cheap. Oh, except Kadri. You're right.
Kadri's going to get paid somewhere that's not going to make the playoffs. But I don't think he cares. He won his cup.
He won his cup. He's done.
He wants to get paid now.
He wants to get paid now. Yeah, I can't argue with that.
Yeah, he's going to end up on one of the lower tier teams, maybe like Seattle or something. Who knows?
Wow, Patrice Bergeron is a UFA.
Yeah.
Whoever he goes to is going to be.
He's going to sign in Boston. They're going to work out. He's going to take a huge pay cut.
Yeah, because he's the captain. I mean,
he's a lifer. You could see it. Those guys really believe in that team. Apparently, Krejci's back on the market. He wants to come back. So I don't know what that's about. So restricted free agents. There's a couple of good ones. Pierre-Luc Dubois, who said he doesn't want to sign long term because he wants out. Patrick Laine in Columbus, and we don't know what the hell's going on with that. There's no word on that. And then the big elephant in the room again, Matthew Tkachuk saying he does not want a long-term contract in Calgary.
We're just turning into like the NBA. Sign short-term deals, big money, and then move on to somebody else as another team.
It's getting to the point where it's starting to look like the NFL in terms of I'm just not going to play this year. Then I'll sit out.
I wouldn't want the players to start dictating their own fate, man. I'd be pretty pissed off if I was a GM. But
I mean, they should be allowed to have some sort of leverage. but I think it's for the fans. It's baloney that your best player might sit out for the whole season because they don't want to sign a contract with you, and it's like
AKA Jack Eichel.
But at this point, it's like you're not. I get it. You're an athlete and you're doing this that. That's fine, but it's not like you're making $100 or you're making minimum wage. Okay, like there's people working their ass off for minimum wage. You get paid millions of dollars a year. Just shut up and skate.
Yeah.
No, I mean, but like realistically, like it's kind of selfish, and there must be something going on in Calgary because nobody wants to be there anymore.
Yeah, and I've heard the same thing about Vegas.
Well,
Like,
we all know what the Vegas issue is. Vegas traded away almost their whole future to obtain Pacioretty along with some other pieces, and then traded Pacioretty away for literally nothing for future considerations.
Yep.
So that's like a sign of which Seattle is not doing. Seattle is going the long burn route where they're going to build from within, pick up prospects, and hopefully get good. And
they will eventually.
Yeah, but Vegas is in a position once these guys get too old or they can't move these contracts, they're just going to be screwed. They're going to be in Detroit land, how Detroit was for all those years. Anyways, I don't have anything else.
No, I'm going to.
All right, guys, thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and check out the Leafs video coming soon.